All right, thanks everyone for all of your patience. We'll go ahead and get started with today's session. Thanks again for taking the time out and joining us. My name is Marley Long, and I am the marketing manager here at Interlock Cardiolog Analytics. I've also got Sapir Adler, our product manager, on the line with me as well. And today's session is actually a series of webinars that we've launched regarding the new content pack. And today we're going to be focusing specifically on SharePoint. And the goal of today's session is that you will walk away with a new understanding of the content pack that Microsoft has released, as well as an understanding of how a more advanced analytics solution can help you boost your SharePoint and Office 365 portal efforts. So we'll provide you with some helpful tips and actions that hopefully you can utilize to set your Office 365 improvement plan into motion. I also want to mention that there's a lot of buzz regarding the content pack, and we also wanted to take this chance to present it to you and really have an open discussion about its offering, as well as to manage the expectations of the content pack in terms of some of the places where we feel that it does fall a little bit short. So just a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded. We will share it with you in the next few days, so you can share it with a colleague, and we'll go ahead and send anyone who's registered an email with the recording as well. You can also connect with us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @Cardiolog. And of course, if you have any questions, you can enter them into the questions box, and we will try to get to them towards the end of the session today. So in regards for today's agenda, we'll start with a brief overview of the adoption content pack, including its advantages and limitations. We will then focus on how to improve adoption, so providing some practical tips. Sapir will then dive into how you can understand your portal more with advanced analytics and engagement solutions. And finally, we'll have some Q&A, as I mentioned, towards the end of our session today. So let's take a moment to talk a little bit about why Microsoft created this content pack and how it fits into their overall vision of the digital workplace. So Microsoft and a lot of other organizations are now understanding the importance of measurement to achieve success in improving adoption and overall business processes. So Microsoft stated that the new Office 365 Adoption Content Pack gives you a cross-product view of how users communicate and collaborate to help IT admins provide more targeted user communication. So when you better understand how employees use the various services within Office 365, it's easy to decide where to prioritize training and communication efforts. So the content pack really lets admins further visualize and analyze Office 365 usage data, as well as creating custom reports, sharing insights, and understanding how specific regions or departments are using Office 365. So the Power BI Content Pack is available. It requires a Power BI Free or Pro license, and it reports on main Office 365 services, so things, workloads like SharePoint, Yammer, Skype for Business, OneDrive, Exchange, and Office 365 Pro Plus. And it really targets IT admins to help understand, again, how these services and licenses are used. So only admins or global admins or Exchange, SharePoint Online, or Skype for Business admins can initiate the content pack and share reports with others in the organization.
And this is an important point because a lot of questions we've gotten were, for example, can I use the content pack to understand how many visitors I'm getting to my site, or how my site is being used, or for business analysis in general? And the simple answer is that the content pack is really built for IT admins to get a better overview of the adoption of different Office 365 services. But to be clear, it wasn't built to answer main business questions on how the services are really being used.
Now let's talk a little bit about how the content pack is new from what we've seen so far in Office 365. So I'm going to hand the presentation off now to Sapir. And she's going to take it from here.
Great, thank you, Marley. So I hope most of you are already familiar with the usage reports that are available in the Admin Center. These are usage reports that have been available since March of last year, and they can give you a high-level overview of how the different Office 365 services are being used. So how is the content pack new, and what advantages it has over these existing reports? It uses the same data as what's been available so far in the Admin Center, but there are a few improvements. So first, it utilizes Power BI capabilities, which allows us to do further customizations to reports and use advanced visualization capabilities that come with Power BI. It also allows slicing and filtering by user information from Azure Active Directory. It also aggregates metrics that can be viewed for a year back, while in the Admin Center we could only see data for a limited period of time. And reports can now be shared with others in the organization who don't have access to the Office 365 Admin Center. So focusing on SharePoint, what information exactly can you get from the content pack? There are three main categories that are relevant to SharePoint in the content pack, and they are adoption, collaboration, and storage. So let's take a deep dive and look at these actual reports. So getting started with the content pack is actually really easy. All you need to do is go to the Office 365 Admin Center where you see the usage reports, and then just enable the Office 365 content pack. It takes a few days for data to get generated, but once it does, you can go to Power BI, enter the access code you got in the Office 365 Admin Center, and connect to your data. When you connect to the content pack, the first thing you'll see is this dashboard that we have here. It's divided to a few sections, focusing around adoption, communication, and collaboration, and lastly, Office activations. But this dashboard is really highlights of all the information we have in the content pack. So let's navigate directly to the content pack report to look at other metrics that are available. So as we said, the content pack allows and gives this information for several Office 365 services, but today we're focusing specifically on SharePoint. And let's start with talking about adoption. Getting more information about adoption is something that can be very useful if we can learn exactly how users are utilizing Office 365 and exactly which services. We can utilize this information in order to, for example, offer more training to these users who are having some issues getting started, or these teams and segments in the organization who might be a bit lagging behind. So what we can see here is the trend over time of enabled users versus active users, and also returning users and first-time users. And we can also see the trend over time of the total number of active users. This is really helpful because we can see how many users are active out of the total number of enabled users, meaning users who have a license to access the Office 365 services, and how many of them are actually utilizing these licenses. How many of them are first-timers, and how many of them are returning visitors, which really adopting to the services more. So this gives us the overall picture of all of the Office 365 services. But if we want to focus on SharePoint, we can just use this filter over here to focus specifically on SharePoint, and that scopes this chart to show us information specifically about SharePoint, so we can see how many active users versus enabled users we had specifically in SharePoint. In this table over here, we can see exactly the same information, just broken down as a table. And here we can see during last month how many active users we had and how many returning visitors. In the product usage report, we can see the same information. So we can see how many users are active in SharePoint versus the other services. And we can also see this over time, how many users were active in each one of these services. But this report also adds the breakdown by different activities for each one of the services. And let's make this a bit larger. So here we have some different service actions, and we can see how many of them we had in each month. So if we want to focus on SharePoint, again, we can use this filter over here. So we can see the number of activities related to SharePoint over time. So here we can see, for example, how many files get viewed or modified per month, how many files got shared internally, and how many files were viewed or modified. There are other actions here, but we currently don't have a lot of information about them specifically in our demo environment. We can also see how many users did each one of these SharePoint-related activities over time. So understanding how many users are active in each Office 365 service is really a great way to understand what services use the most. But what if you see, for example, that a lot of users are utilizing SharePoint and less utilize Yammer, for example? That can be a great insight, but what can be more helpful is to see how many users who use Yammer, for example, don't use SharePoint, or how many of them use both of the products combined. We can get some of this information here in the user adoption by product. So here we can see how many of the users are inactive in all of Office 365, or we can see how many of them are active only in SharePoint or in different combinations of different services. We can also see this information broken down by individual users. So we can see specific users and whether they are active in all of Office 365, only in SharePoint, and so on. And we can also slice this information by different attributes coming from Active Directory, specifically company, department, and location. So this is really great information. It's limited specifically to show us information only for last month, which could have been nice to see a more trend over time of how users utilize different services together. But again, as a high-level overview, it's good at least to see what combinations of services used last month. We can also utilize this breakdown by different Active Directory attributes in reports like the adoption by department, where we can see who are the top active departments. And also for each department, how many activities they had for each of the activity types. In our case, we don't have this information populated in Azure Active Directory. And this is a very important point. In order to fully utilize these reports, it's very important to keep your information in Azure Active Directory up to date to really allow these extra filtering options. The same thing is also available for breakdown by regions. But again, all of these reports that focus on specific users or specific user information or user attributes are only available for last month. In this report, we can focus more on activities specifically in SharePoint. In the first section over here, we can focus on users. So again, we can see the number of active users out of the total number of enabled users. And we can also see this trend over time. And over here, we can see the same activities we saw in the second report over time. So specifically, the activities that are relevant to SharePoint. An important note here is that currently the content pack only reports on interactions with files. So all the activities that you see here are only relevant to some file interactions, like files that were viewed or modified, shared, synced, and so on. And this applies both to the activities that you see here and also to all the other metrics that calculate number of active sites or active users. So if you see that you have a huge number of inactive users, relax, that might not be that you actually have such a big problem with inactive users. They might not just be utilizing documents specifically, but maybe they do access other sites and view other pages. In the next section, we can see how many sites are active out of the total number of sites. And we can also see this breakdown over time. One limitation currently of the content pack is that it only reports on group and team sites. So all the information we see here in these charts and overall all the information related to SharePoint in the content pack is only information coming from group or team site. And here we can also see the same actions that we're reporting on for SharePoint, so file interactions and how many interactions we had in different sites. The last section of the report focuses on files specifically. So we can see how many documents are active out of the total number of documents over time, and also how many files had each one of the activities that we're reporting on. So how many files got viewed or how many files got shared. So over here, we want to focus on users a bit more and understand exactly who are these active and inactive users. We can do this with this report, the SharePoint user activity. So first here we can understand who are the top most active companies and who are the most active departments. And here we can see specific users and all the different SharePoint actions that the content pack is reporting on, and how many actions they had for each activity type. Again, every user-specific activity is limited to only last month, so we can see only what these users did last month. So that's a great way to drill down from active and inactive users to see who are these users exactly last month. But what we can really see is what's behind the numbers of active users and active files. We can't really see who are these active sites and what are these active files. But again, this is expected since this is meant to be really a high-level overview of how well the SharePoint is doing and how users are adapting to it, and not really get into the details of which sites and which files are the most active. So this covers the adoption part, and all the adoption-related information we can get on SharePoint from the adoption content pack. So more information we can get here is about collaboration. So for this category, we have one report in the content pack that can help us learn more about collaboration. So first, in this chart, we can see for SharePoint Online how many sites were used by the owner versus by others who are not the owner over time. And over here, we can see how many active users we had by file activity type. So again, the same metric that we saw before, but here it can give us some more indication about levels of collaboration and not just adoption. And then lastly, the final piece of information that's relevant to SharePoint that we can get out of the content pack is storage. So here we can see the trend over time of the usage of storage out of the quota of storage and how it's utilized over time. And again, we can see this quota specifically for group or team sites. So to summarize, the specific metrics you can get that are relevant to SharePoint. So in the category of user count, we can see how many active users we had, the total number and the percentage, the number or percentage of enabled users, as well as returning users and first-time users. In terms of activity, we can aggregate activity for types of sites, individual users, or we can see total numbers for documents, but not for specific documents. So we can see the number of activities per activity type, and also the number of users who performed an activity. In terms of storage, we can see the amount of storage space used as percentage and over time. And in terms of content, we can see how many active sites and total sites we have, and how many active documents and total documents we had over time. So the adoption content pack is really great to get an overview of which Office 365 services are used in the organization. It allows comparing the usage of different Office 365 services to one another. So as we could see, we can look at SharePoint versus the entire Office 365 services, or we can compare one service to another. We can also break down data by regions or departments to see the usage of different Office 365 services. The content pack also displays how licenses are utilized and how they can be further optimized. It utilizes Power BI visualizations and report editing capabilities, and also now reports can be shared within Power BI. In terms of the limitations of the content pack, so first one limitation is that historic data is only available for 12 months, which is a lot more than what we used to had, but it doesn't really allow us to see a further or more in-depth trend over time. For example, compare the month in this year to the same month in the last year. User-specific activity is limited to information specifically from last month only. The SharePoint metrics are currently limited only to interactions with files and only from team and group sites. Also, filtering by user information is limited to location, company, and department attributes coming from Azure Active Directory. And using additional attributes requires customization. Also, reports can be viewed from a single Office 365 subscription at a time. But I think most importantly, it's important to understand most metrics are pre-aggregated. So that limits down a bit the ability to drill down and further see what's behind these metrics. For example, like we weren't able to see which sites are active and which files were active. And also, the fact that this is in Power BI allows us to create further customizations. But it's also important to understand that because all of these metrics are pre-aggregated, we can't really add more metrics than what we saw here, or we can, but it's a bit limited. The customizations that we can do are mostly if we want to see different metrics together in one report, or if we want to remove some of the things we see in some of the reports, and so on. So the adoption content pack is really an excellent tool and an excellent starting point for understanding whether your organization is fully utilizing everything that Office 365 has to offer, which is a huge step. But at this point, you might be asking, so how can I improve what I'm seeing? This question is fundamental for creating a better virtual workspace and getting more value of your portal and tools. And this has been the main question we have been dealing with from the day our product was created. How can we help make the portal better and improve business processes across the board? After 12 years of exploring this question, we truly believe that the key for creating a better portal is understanding your users. What do they use the portal for? How do they do it? But above all, what challenges do they have? Only by answering these questions can we understand what can we do to improve the portal for our users and how we can create a portal that users want to use. So let's talk practical. How can we drive adoption in Office 365 and specifically in SharePoint? These are a few ideas we've put together to help you get started. So first, targeting inactive users. Providing training to inactive users is a very basic idea, which I'm sure many of you are already familiar with. Many users might not be using the portal that much because they just don't know what's the right way to use it to get value from it. If you offer SharePoint training, for example, across the entire organization, however, that might be a waste of resources and employee time. So by understanding who are the teams and users who are lagging behind, you can make sure you focus your efforts where they are most needed. So offering training can be a great way to start, but to really drive adoption, we need to ask the right questions. And we need to see how to make the portal more relevant and more engaging. So first, we need to understand what users use the portal for. Do they use it to find or share information, get updated on recent news, work on their projects, and what content exactly are they using for these purposes? By answering these questions, we can learn whether users use the portal for a specific site for what we wanted them to. If not, let's help drive this action, or as a site owner, make the relevant changes. Also, what drives the most engagement? If we have an answer to that, we can easily duplicate the success in the future and in other places. And also, we can learn exactly what types of content are most successful in driving engagement and what important content is actually not getting noticed enough. Not only identifying which users are inactive, but also identifying who are the power users in your portal or site can be extremely helpful. Who are these users who are making a great impact in the portal and swift away more colleagues? By identifying these users, you can learn more from their success. What do they do that seems to work so well? Or also get their help to promote the portal within their team. Or just take it to the next level to use gamification maybe and see which teams and users do the best with the portal. Another example, if your goal is to have users come across as much content as possible when they browse through the portal or in a specific site, by learning which sites or pages users usually leave the portal from, you can improve these sites or pages to make them more engaging and ensure that users want to continue to other content instead of closing that browser tab. Another important step to improve adoption is to improve the usability. And one of the most common answers you might get when you ask users, why don't you use the portal more often, is, well, I don't find it that comfortable to use, or in other formats, it's not so easy to find what I look for, I can't really get around doing something, or it takes too much time to perform a certain action. You get the point. The idea is that usability is often a main blocker for users from using the portal more. But while some might think that SharePoint is to blame for that, actually most of the power is in your hands. And to give you a few examples, search. Search is one of the main ways most users use to get around and find what they need and to get things done. And thanks to today's successful search engines, users also have high expectations of how search should work. And if they have to struggle to find what they need, or if it takes too much time, this for sure doesn't get us those successful portal points with them. By learning where the challenges are with search, you can easily optimize search to work better for users and provide a better experience. Also, navigation. Navigation is a very important topic. By learning what are the most common navigation paths, we can make these paths smoother. Or if you see that users are not taking the path we intended them to, for example, they go directly to the documents library, while we really wanted them to look at some news articles first before they do that, we can make sure these paths are easier and more visible. Portal responsiveness is another great example. And you've probably seen this before. Users overloaded a page with tons of content, and now the page takes forever to load. Or maybe you have some custom code running on this page that doesn't actually work that well. In other cases, your portal might not be fully compatible with all the different devices or browser types your users are using. Or maybe that Boston office has some proxy issues, again, causing latency when opening the portal. In any case, no one likes to sit and wait for pages to load. And by learning where these responsiveness issues lie, we can resolve them and provide a much better experience to our users. The great thing about improving usability is that it doesn't only improve adoption and engagement, but also can have a direct impact on productivity. If users don't need to waste their time struggling with the portal, that gives them more time to do what they really need to. And then feedback. The last example we'll talk about here is feedback and human insights. And who can really vouch for users' needs more than the users themselves? There are so many insights you can discover by opening these communication channels, learning what users think, and seeing things through their eyes. Lastly, we can find new and more creative ways to communicate and engage our users. We'll cover more of that later on. So these are very important questions. And while the Adaptive Content Pack is great to get a high-level understanding on which Office 365 services are being used and by who, to really understand the portal and portal users, we need a more robust analytics solution. All of these questions we just discussed and much more are precisely the reason why we created Cardiog Analytics. At Cardiog Analytics, we've made it our goal to help organizations succeed in getting more value from their portals. With solutions that monitor the usage of SharePoint, Yammer, and Office 365, then allow users to take action and further engage users, we help our customers enhance their portal and improve the portal ROI. There is so much you can learn with advanced analytics. Let's take adoption again as an example. So these are some of the reports that come with Cargo Analytics. And let's start with talking about adoption. As we said, understanding more about how the portal is being used and understanding adoption, this is the starting point from where we can try to improve that. So first here we can see the number of active users out of the total amount of users over time. And here the definition of an active user is a user that's logged into the portal at least once. But that's not really enough to really understand adoption. It's also important to understand what users do once they log in to the portal. And this is why we also need to understand, for example, how much pages they normally visit in every time they log into the portal. In many cases, we saw that the active user rate might be very high, sometimes over 90% even, but actually the average depth of visit was around 1 page or 2 pages at times. And a common situation for that can be if users have the SharePoint homepage defined as the first page that opens up when they open the browser. So that can skew a bit the number of active users. So if we look at these metrics combined, we can really get the full picture of adoption. So our customers that were able to identify these cases were able to improve adoption by making the main landing page a bit more engaging to drive users to visit more pages in the portal. More important metrics here are, for example, the average length of visit, how many visits end after visiting only one page, and how many visits end within 30 seconds. We track these metrics, like how much time users spend on pages and in the portal in general, by using a tracking code, a JavaScript tracking code that we have developed, and it was designed specifically for SharePoint. So there's a lot of information that we can track about how the portal is being used. Besides just tracking how much time users spend on pages, we can also track what links they click on in the page, what do they search for, what search results they click on, and so on. Besides just understanding whether or not users log into the portal, it's also important to understand what do they use the portal for. In this report, for example, we can see the different usage types. So we can see how many visitors contribute new content, how many of them participate, so they collaborate with others on content or add replies to conversations and so on, how many of them just view pages, and how many of them are completely inactive. And we can also see exactly who are the contributors, participants, and viewers in active users by department. Or if we drill down, we can see exactly who are these contributors, participants, and viewers in each department. We can also learn more about inactive users. So in the content pack, we could see the departments, the regions, or the users who were inactive last month. And here we can learn a bit more about inactive users. And an inactive user is not necessarily just someone who didn't edit a file or view the file. We can really decide here how to define an inactive user. It might be a user who haven't logged into the portal at all, or maybe haven't visited a certain site or certain content, did not spend over a certain amount of time in the portal, didn't do a certain action, and more. We can really customize this report in order to decide who do we define an inactive user. And over here, we can see the breakdown of active versus inactive users per department. And this information is taken from the SharePoint user profiles. So instead of seeing this department by, seeing this information by department, you can see this breakdown by any other attributes that you have available in SharePoint profile, including custom attributes that you've added on your own. And we can also see the breakdown by users. So if we want to focus on a specific department, we can just click on it, and that would filter the list of users to show us who are the most and the least active users within that department. So that can be a really great way to identify who are these top users, and also who are the users who are a bit lagging behind and are not very active, so we can then maybe offer them training. We can also further focus on each user. So if we click on a specific user, we can see their information here coming from their SharePoint profile, as well as a report of their activity. So we can understand exactly how active they were in each year or each month. And we can also drill down to see exactly in which days of the month they were most active and exactly which content they viewed. Another thing that's important to mention here is that this information is not limited. So you might want to see users who were inactive in the last 30 days, or maybe this quarter, this year, or in any other custom date range that you choose. In the contact, we could also see what was the number of new versus returning visitors, but we couldn't really drill down to see who are these new and returning visitors. So what we can see in this report is really the breakdown, either by different attributes like office or department, so we can really understand how many new visitors we have from each segment, and we can also drill down to see exactly who are these new users. And that can be very helpful in order to really see what's behind these numbers. So where the growth in users, for example, is coming from. So that covers the adoption part. And let's talk a bit more about content. So in the content pack, we could see how many sites were active and how many documents were active. But what can be very useful in order to really understand how users use the portal is to understand what areas of the portal are actually used the most, and specifically which content items. And we can use this report in order to get this information. This chart, for example, allows us to drill down from the top level of the portal all the way down to the lower levels of the portal up to the item level and see exactly how usage data breaks down. So if we drill down here, we can see that in total we had this amount of pages and this amount of unique users. And then if we click on the drill down button, that will take us to the next level of the portal. So in our case, we're tracking both SharePoint 2013 and SharePoint Online, so we can see how the usage data breaks down between them. In our case, we can see that SharePoint 2013 was actually more active. We can drill down further, so let's drill down into SharePoint Online. This basically takes us to the next level where we can see the different site collections, and we can see which site collections were more active. We can further see how this data breaks down in the sub-site level, or even drill down to specific lists. to see which lists are more popular, or if we drill down into one of the lists, like site pages, for example, we can see the specific content items within this list or library. So this can be a great way if you want to compare different items that are within the same level of the portal, whether it's the same library or the same site, or if you want to investigate and see how usage data breaks down and what areas of the portal are more active. But we can also focus on specific content items, whether it's pages, documents, list items, and so on. You can see this breakdown over here in this table. And let's just make this a bit larger. There's a lot, so much information that you can get about each content item. For example, you can see how many pages it had, how many users used it, and on average, how much time they spent viewing each one of these items. But we can also filter this information. We have a lot of information about the SharePoint content, and we can use this in order to filter and really slice and dice the information that we see here. So for example, if we wanted to focus only on our SharePoint Online tenant, for example, we can just click on it from this filter, and that will show us what viewed content items specifically from SharePoint Online. In the same way, we can focus on a specific site collection or sub-site, or even focus on a specific list or a specific item. We can also filter information and segment information based on the type of content, whether we want to focus on documents, for example, or announcements. That can be very helpful, for example, if you have your own template that you normally use for news articles, for example, and you want to see how these news articles are doing across the portal, no matter where they were published, you can easily click on the news content type or news template and get this relevant information. And we can also filter this information based on the users who created this content, whether it's the team or the department of the user who created content. So maybe we want to focus on content created by the HR team or the communications team, or maybe if we want to see how content created by a specific user even did and how many pages it got, we can just filter this table or any other visual here based on the creator of the content item. So here we could see how many users used each item, but we can also see who are these users who used each item, or in general used a specific section of the portal. So by clicking on this site, library, or specific item that we're interested in from the portal tree folder, we can see exactly who are the departments or any other segments, whether it's office, country, and so on, anything that that's available in your SharePoint profiles. We can see exactly who are these teams who used that content item or that area of the portal. And if we drill down, we can also see who are the specific users who use that content. So if I just make this larger, you can see the specific users who used each content item or each site and each library. This also works the other way around. So if we want to focus on the marketing department, for example, and look at what they've been using, we can just click on it, and that would filter the rest of the visuals in the report to focus specifically on the marketing department. So over here in this chart, we can see highlighted the parts of the portal that they usually use over the others. Or in this table, we can see exactly what were the content items that they've used. And if we drill down, we can also see this information for a specific user. So if we click on a user, we can see exactly what this user has been viewing. In this report, we can, and in general, other reports here, we can monitor multiple farms and multiple tenants together. So we can either see aggregated data for all of our tenants and SharePoint farms combined, or focus on one tenant or one farm at a time. Another piece of information that we mentioned before that can really help boost up adoption is really looking at how we can improve engagement and collaboration. And we have a lot of reports around this topic. Just to give you a few examples, here we can see an overview of the engagement, so we can really analyze what the visits in the portal usually look like, how much time users usually spend in the portal, and how many pages they normally visit, and so on. We can also look at common navigations to see what pages users usually go to after each page, or look at what pages users usually leave the portal from. In terms of usability, we also have a lot of information available there. We have a lot of information about search to see in general how search is doing, and also how we can further optimize it to work better. And really understand what users are looking to see and where they're really struggling with search. We can also learn more about portal responsiveness, what geographical locations have a longer loading time, or what specific devices or browsers, and exactly what are the specific slow pages in the portal, so we can take an action and further improve these pages. Also, when talking about resources, in the content pack, we could see what's the trend over time of storage usage. So here we can see really how the storage breaks down, and exactly what content types are taking up most of the storage in the portal, or if we drill down to documents, we can see what are the specific extensions and file types that are taking up most of the size. And we can also see the trend over time for the creation of these content types and these document types. We can also see what areas of the portal use most of the size, and again, we can drill down and understand exactly where most of the storage is taken. Furthermore, we can also see exactly what are the unused content. So if we want to remove a few items to free up some space, we can very easily understand here what items are actually not being used and how much space they're wasting. So these are just a few examples to some information you can get with using further analytics. But besides getting this information, it's also important to first get more feedback from the actual users, and also further engage them. And this is what we wanted to do with our tool called Korg Engage. So basically what you saw with the part about analytics is how you can learn more about what needs to be optimized in the portal. And we really try to focus the information we show on what actions you can take to improve the portal and make it better. But what we wanted to do with Korg Engage is take it to the next level and not just show you this information, but also allow you to take action and further engage your portal users. So in Korg Engage, you can create campaigns, and the powerful thing about it is that it's all based on information that was captured by Korg Analytics. We have so much information about the users, like what department they're coming from, what office, and also what are their usage habits, how much time they normally spend in the portal, what sites or content they normally visit, and what are they doing at any moment that they spend in the portal. And we can utilize this information in order to really send the right message to the right user at the right time, either to further engage them, to do more actions, and get exposed to more content, and really communicate them in a new and more creative way, or to get more feedback from them. And it can be very useful to ask a user how they're doing and if they're able to do the actions that they want to do right after they're doing this action. This way you can get a lot more useful information than, for example, if you'd asked the same question a few weeks or a few months after the user did that action. So in general, you can use this for all sort of things, starting from emailing inactive users that haven't logged into the portal or to a specific site in a while, asking them why they haven't logged into the portal, or offering some engaging message that might get them to log into the portal, and all the way up to asking a user that just did a search, were they able to find the information they were looking for, or if you see that they're spending too much time looking at the search result page or doing a few consecutive searches without clicking on any of the search results, we can also ask them, did you find what you were looking for, or what exactly were you looking for? So this can be very powerful in order to target the users who really need to get this message and exactly at the right time.
Thanks so much for sharing all of those powerful insights, Sophia. I'm just going to take the screen for a moment now. Okay, so just to conclude this session today, so just a brief summary. So we discussed the content pack in terms of what it provides, so some insights on adoption, collaboration, and storage for SharePoint, as well as across Office 365. Again, some limits do exist if you want to drill down further into your SharePoint usage. There are some extended features available, solutions like Cardiolog Analytics that can really help you take your portal reporting to the next level and really understand those details of where your challenges exist in the portal, and then can really allow you to take action based on these insights that you found. And in addition, I wanted to mention, if you are just getting started with the content pack, if you're not really sure what to do with it, and you want to understand some actions that you can take immediately to start, improving your portal, we do provide training and consulting on the Office 365 content pack. So if that's something of interest to you, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to have a discussion about that. And at this time, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to take just a few questions. We have 2 minutes left. I don't want to take too much time. We will answer all of the questions via email after the session is over, so if we don't get to your question, we'll be happy to get to it after the session. But we'll try to get to a few questions today, so if you have any questions, please enter them now, and we'll try to get to them as quickly as possible. I also want to mention we offer a free trial for Cardiolog Analytics on-prem, as well as a trial for our SaaS solution that you saw today. You can tweet us at Cardiolog, and you can also read our blog at blog.intlock.com. And just give us 1 second. We'll read over some questions and see how we can get you guys some answers to some of those questions about the content pack as well as Cardiolog Analytics.
Okay, so one of the questions we got here is when the next version of the adoption content pack is going to be released. The official announcement from Microsoft is that there's still no definitive date for when that's going to happen. What they do say, however, is that they do expect to have a bit of a lag between what metrics they add to the Office 365 Admin Center usage reports. It might take a bit more time to add these additional metrics to the content pack since it requires a lot of changes. One more question that we got here is how many of these capabilities are available for SharePoint on-prem? So currently the content pack is available only for SharePoint Online. What you saw in the second part of the webinar, our advanced analytics solution, Core Analytics, can track all of the versions of SharePoint, starting from SharePoint on-prem, SharePoint Online, as well as Yammer and other Office 365 services. One more question here is what sort of Power BI licensing is required in order to use the adoption content pack? So to use the adoption content pack, you can either use a Power BI free account or Power BI Pro, but in order to share the reports with others through Power BI, you need to have a Power BI Pro account, as well as the user who should receive the reports. They should also have Power BI Pro.
All right, thanks so much, Scipio. And today, that's all the time that we have for today, but we will be answering any of the additional questions that you guys have submitted into the chat box via email. We will be sending out the recording, so be on the lookout for that. And again, thanks so much for joining our session. I hope you learned a little bit about the content pack, as well as what you can do with some advanced analytics in order to make your portal as optimized and as great as you can. And again, thanks so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.